it is so important to like position ourselves towards the good when everything around us is trying to get us to do the opposite. And we are being pulled in so many directions, and there are forces at work that want us to position ourselves towards things that are falling apart. And while I am not saying ignore this, I am not saying this is toxic positivity, I am saying look for the good. Because you are doing good work and it is not to be ignored.
Welcome to Oxygen for Educators. I'm one of your hosts, Michelle Kinder, and you'll meet Chris Kent Phelps in just a bit. It's our hope to bring you thought-provoking, unscripted conversations full of actionable ideas to fuel your important work in the world. Thanks for tuning in. This space is for you. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Michelle. How are you today?
I'm good. This woman that everyone is about to meet, Rebecka Peterson, she's iconic to me. I've thought about her every single day since our conversation, and I think I'll just keep thinking about her. Like, she just moved into my soul.
She's a special human, that's for sure. And certainly represents everything that we talk about on a daily basis, and wanting to elevate the voices of one, to elevate the voices of all. And she is firm in her belief that that matters.
And illustrates it. And how often do you get the chance to talk to someone who's almost been like on an anthropologic, is that a word? Is it?
I'm going to give it to you.
Well, okay. Through the lens of anthropology, she had like 2 years of getting to observe educators across the state of Oklahoma and then across the country. So I hope people put the weight behind her words of that experience, because I really think what's coming from her has so much gravitas, probably before she had those 2 years, but especially because she had those 2 years. So I hope everybody gets a lot out of it.
100%. Let me read her bio so that we can jump in and listeners can hear more about what you're talking about.
Awesome.
On that anthropological experiment. All right. So our guest today is Rebecka Peterson. She's been in education for 17 years, the last decade plus at Union High School in Tulsa, Oklahoma. She is a self-proclaimed math teacher who loves stories. I love the way she said that. But as Michelle mentioned, she was first Oklahoma State Teacher of the Year and then the National Teacher of the Year, and spent time traveling the country, meeting other educators, learning from other educators. So she's got a lot to share with us today. She is so well-spoken. She is so humble. I joked that of all of the people that have come on the podcast, her bio was the shortest, but she's very, very accomplished. So I thought that just says everything about who she is. And as I mentioned, she's a strong believer in when we elevate one, we elevate all. Her message as National Teacher of the Year highlighted teacher stories of the good that is happening in education, which is what we aim to do on Oxygen for Educators. So please enjoy Michelle's interview with Rebecka.
Hi, Rebecka.
Hi, how are you?
I feel like I'm in the presence of education royalty today.
It's so good to be here. Thanks for having me, Michelle.
I'm so very excited to have this conversation with you for many, many reasons that I think will make themselves obvious as we're talking. But I just want to dive right in because I have so many curiosities and so many questions, and just want to give as much space to your thinking and your heart and spirit as we possibly can. So let me start with our favorite starting question, which is just having you tell us your story. Sure. And you get to pick the starting point. How deep and wide you go.
Very fair. Goodness, we just had the first day of school a few weeks ago, so I should be well versed in this by now. But I guess I will start at the beginning. I am an immigrant to this country. I'm the daughter of an Iranian father and a Swedish mother. Um, we I was born in Sweden. We immigrated to the beautiful land of Oklahoma when I was really young. And then my parents actually became medical missionaries. So I suppose like three cultures was not confusing enough. So we also spent some time in Kazakhstan and some time in Tajikistan. So by the time I was 16, I'd lived in 4 different countries, which I am so incredibly grateful for now as an adult, but as a child, moving from continent to continent, especially in really what I think are really formative and pivotal years, was quite frankly untethering. And we came back to the States when I was a sophomore in high school, finished out my high school and my college journey here in the States. I became a U.S. citizen when I was 21, and got a degree in mathematics, then got my master's in mathematics, thinking I wanted to be a college professor. And did that. I did college instruction for 3 years and then very adorably thought I could just switch over to high school teaching. So in 2012, I became a high school math teacher after 3 years of collegiate math teaching. And it was really challenging to make the switch from a classroom where students were paying to hear what I had to say to a classroom where students were forced by the government to hear what I had to say.
The vibe is a little different.
It's a little different. But I eventually found my rhythm thanks to my colleagues and thanks to a lot of reflection and hard work. And even though I couldn't put my thumb on it at the time, I now realize that what was drawing me to high school teaching, particularly at Union High School here in Tulsa, is my background. And I say what was so untethering as a child really now is what tethers me to my students. I get to teach a really diverse district. We have one high school for the whole district, and the district is 80% free and reduced. We have 62 languages spoken in our district, so it's incredibly culturally rich. And it was once I found my rhythm, I realized it's such a soft place for me to land. And I've been there since 2012. In 2022, my life took a little bit of a turn. I was selected as Oklahoma's Teacher of the Year. So I was actually released from classroom duties for a year to travel the state and listen, learn, advocate for our profession statewide. And then in 2023, I was selected as the National Teacher of the Year, and so got to do another year of listening, learning, advocating across our nation. So yeah, as National Teacher of the Year, as NTOY as we call it, you have about 150 speaking commitments. So there really is, no way to be there for your students and your families and be in this other job. So anyway, about a year ago, I came home to Union Public Schools, and I now serve as their teacher leadership specialist, which is just a fancy way of saying I get to teach part-time and advocate for teachers part-time. So that was a really long story.
No, there's so much good juiciness in all of that. I'm going to start at the end, but I do want to go back to the beginning. Because I know that many of the listeners will be like, yeah, duh, we knew that. And then some will be like, I had no idea. I'm in the camp of I had no idea that when you're the state teacher of the year or the national teacher of the year, it's not just an incredible honor, but it's like a job for a year.
Yeah, I try to be really selective with my words because I think a lot of people will put like, "Oh, you're the best teacher," and there is, hear me loud and clear, like no such thing as the best teacher, right? Like there are an infinite number of ways to be highly effective. It was just I was selected for a job for a year, and the next year was somebody else's turn. And I really do emphasize that it was a job. And I feel like in the selection process, it they do a great job of really like parsing down um, all the different skills it takes because it's not just about being a great teacher. It's also about like um, who's ready to like tell their story
Yeah.
and use that story to amplify our profession because when we elevate one, we elevate all, right?
Oof. The in prepping for this interview, I got the sense that you were very ready to tell your own story in
Yeah.
service of elevating all. I also got the sense that you're like a magical creature when it comes to listening to other people's stories
Yeah.
and elevating those. Like that was one of my takeaways. What would you add to that?
Yeah, I think it's less
To your
about
magical
magic
creature
and
definition.
more about intentionality, I think. So this was really it was what my students taught me, and I realized I needed to become a better listener because of them.
Mm.
And so I think really where my listening skills developed deeply is when I started to actually look at my AP calculus pass rates. And I realized that the students who looped with me from pre-calculus to calculus had a 100% pass rate on the AP exam. And those who didn't had a 75% pass rate. And I knew it was not like because I was some great pre-calc teacher. I knew it was because of the relationships I had, right, with those students and that we could just like hit the ground running. And it made me really sad to think that something that was not in and anything a student could choose sort of like dictated how they were going to do on this exam that they prepped at least 1 year for. I think one could argue that they prepped like 12 years for because it really is like a culmination of all their math education so far. And so I thought, like, how do I make up for that lost time? And I decided to tell my story the first day of class and then ask my students to come tell me their stories. And so they sign up for little 15-minute time slots and they just come tell me about like whatever they want, like it's often about their pets or their families or their work or their future hopes. And we just like make that space for each other. And I think when you make that space, trust starts to build, right? And so then what happens is as we're working on math problems, there might be hey, did you watch the most recent episode of Ted Lasso last night? What'd you think? Right. And so that takes us 30 seconds. And then second 31, the kid is like, and Miss P, can you help me with question number 5? Right. And so they really taught me the value of listening and listening to understand, right, instead of to be understood. And now that pass rate, the last time I taught calculus, at least that pass rate has decreased from 25 percentage points disparity to 8 percentage points. So I think that there's like quantifiable data that that this worked, right, for me. It worked for me. It worked for my students. And so then I kind of took that same idea and created sort of a passion project when I was state teacher of the year and created a campaign called Teachers of Oklahoma, kind of a nod to Humans of New York, if you know it. And I got to travel the state and I just listened to teachers all over Oklahoma's 77 counties and got to see them in their classroom and listen to their stories. And then I got to share those stories in print and on social media.
Incredible.
Yeah, I think like when we learn each other's stories, we carry a piece of each other with us, right? And that changes us, that informs us. It it like becomes the foundation of our work.
I think I have a quote about stories that I heard you say in something. When we learn people's stories, grace permeates.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
loved that.
Yeah. And I say like grace doesn't make excuses, but grace makes room.
We just see each other with like a wider aperture
Yeah.
and much more generosity of spirit.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
So, do you even feel like you're in the same genetic structure that you were in before those 2 years? Or do you just feel like a wholly different person?
I love that you asked. The way you put it actually kind of like gave me chills. No, I don't. Like I feel, I do. I feel very different. Still like the core of me is me. But I say like you can't unsee what you see when you get to have such incredible experiences and at such like a quick rate, right? Like to get to be in so many classrooms so quickly and get to scoot up close to incredible teachers all over the country. And we also, as state teachers of the year, have a cohort. So we get to when it was our year of service, we got several trips together. Like we got to go to Google together. We got to go to the White House together, did space camp together. We got to go to the national college football championship game. Like, and so not only are we spending this time together, we're having like very core memories together. Right.
Yeah.
And so getting to, like borrow their wisdom and their experience and their courage, like that is that's the greatest gift of being a state and national teacher of the year, to meet and have friends from all states.
Yeah, I would think that kind of experience has you make the kind of friends that are really hard to come by in adulthood.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, it's really hard to explain. We have this saying that always gets said at graduation at Union, but I feel like it just so very accurately describes the teacher of the year experience too, where it's like from the outside you can't quite understand it, and from the inside you can't explain it.
Mm-hmm.
And that
like
is
a cult.
Unfortunately. No, it's just a very tight-knit group, and also like this group where everybody's heart beats the same, right?
Yeah. In a profession that suffers from either feeling unseen or that the narrative has been sort of snatched from them. So I would think that intensifies that connection.
I think so. And CCSSO, the Council of Chief State School Officers, does such an incredible job of elevating teachers and making sure that year of service is just a really meaningful one, and one that isn't just for a year, but one that like really propels you to continue the work in your space, right? And in your state.
Yeah. Okay. From those 2 years, what is something that you believed, but now you've doubled down on?
Yeah.
And then second part, what is something that you did a 360 on? Or a 180?
180.
Yeah, 180. And I'm talking to a math person, so I better get it right.
What I believed was the importance of a high quality educator in being able to really change a student's trajectory for the good. And that is something I've certainly doubled down on for a few reasons. One is just getting to see how many incredible educators our country has. And then also, like when I traveled, and I'd be taking like an Uber from the airport to the convention or whatever. Like, you know, you start talking to the person next to you on the plane, your Uber driver, your waitress, your server, and it always comes up like, what do you do? And I'm a teacher. And I mean, 9 times out of 10, Michelle, the next words out of that person's mouth were like they started talking about a teacher that changed them.
Yes.
And I would just be in these conversations and be like, I just want to bottle up like all these conversations. And I wish like I wish I knew who they were talking about, right? And that I could like send this conversation to that teacher, because what I want like American teachers to know is that people all over this country are like holding them so close. They're holding them so close, and that they're making a difference. And I know that it doesn't always feel that way, but I know that to be true, like intellectually, viscerally, I just know it. And then the other reason I've really doubled down on it is because I'm a mom with a kid who is in public school in Oklahoma. And while, yes, I want him to have access to like good technology and great buildings and up and coming innovative programs, like I would give up any of those before I would give up the fact that he has access to great teachers.
Yeah.
And especially with how much I was gone as National Teacher of the Year and away from my family, like the people who really stepped up were, of course, like my close friends and his teachers. And I just have all the respect in the world for particularly his teachers. But it just makes me so committed to working on ensuring that we have high quality educators in every single classroom.
Powerful. What about the 180?
You know, what a good question. I think that I used to think that, I don't know if it's a 180, maybe a 90, but there's sort of this narrative of like, you have an expiration date. Like once you leave the classroom, you start to kind of be like irrelevant, and this is why I say a 90, because even before I had this experience, I'd be like, I don't know, like I have some principals that have not been in the classroom teaching for a while, but I still feel like they really like get it, you know? And so I think one thing I realized was I think it's less that people like that they're not in it anymore. It's more that we have perhaps some administrators who never were truly in it, right? And so I think that has been a helpful reframe for me, that it's less about like having this expiration date, more about like how deeply were you in the work when you were in the classroom. I don't know. Does that make
interesting?
sense?
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, I'd not really thought about that in that way before, but it really does make sense. And I can think of folks I've known who had been out of the classroom for a long time, but they had ways of even out of it, they had ways of dipping back in and staying connected. And yeah, they stayed super relevant. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting. The other thing I wanted to kind of pull on from your first answer is your early experiences, because we have some commonalities. I was a missionary kid as well. Yeah, so I understand. And I often use that word kind of untethered. So when you said what untethered me then tethers me to my students now, it's like, well, that is such a powerful just arc of like, I had these early life experiences that allow me to see and connect with my students in a way that I couldn't access had I not had that.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Really, really interesting. One of the things that I remember from just kind of looking back on my time. I didn't move around a lot. We lived in Guatemala. That's where I was born and grew up.
Oh
And
man.
and I
Yeah.
remember when I was there, I felt the same but looked
Yeah.
different. That was
Yeah.
home to me. That was,
Yes. Yes.
I knew I
Yeah.
was American, from the U.S., but
Yeah.
that was my home, and
Mhm.
those were my people,
Mhm.
and so I felt connected there. We would come visit, and I looked like I belonged, except I
Mhm.
was awkward as hell. Um, but I didn't on the inside.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so I remember just thinking about that, and then extending it to how many people I make assumptions about
Yeah. That's
based
powerful.
on, external versus their internal
Correct.
experience.
Yeah. Yeah, and I imagine too, like what I felt a lot growing up is I had to like earn my place, right? Like by
Mhm.
what I did. And so I think that, not I think, I know that that was really, mm, that really helped me build my teaching philosophy. Just, I
Mhm.
don't want my students to feel like they have to act a certain way or dress a certain way or like even make a certain grade, right? To feel like they're in, like because that's like fitting in, right? Thank
Yeah.
you, Brene Brown. Like we want our students to belong, and that means they're in exactly as they are, like on their good days, on their bad days, whether they make the A or far from it.
Mhm.
That they're in and they have a seat at the table. Um, and so yeah, I think that that really is like the foundation of why I became a teacher, even though I probably could not say it in those words at the time.
Mm-hmm. And how incredible that you've found ways to operationalize your commitment to them feeling in from the
Yeah,
jump, like what you did with your
yeah, yeah,
calculus students of like,
yeah.
sign up, I want to hear your story. Like that's such a
Right.
great example of front loading and just making it very clear from the beginning, all of you is welcome here, and I see you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the hope because particularly with teenagers, I think like you can say whatever you want, but they're going to be like, okay, prove it, you know? And so,
Mm-hmm.
and you prove it with your actions. Um, I, I love using this physics analogy where particles at the subatomic level move when they're seen.
Show off.
So just like that like mere act of bearing witness to them
Yeah.
like changes their trajectory, right? And I just think that that's poetry.
It's the human.
That's human. That's human. Like when people see us for who we are, it changes our trajectory. And that's what teachers do every day. Like every day, teachers see kids for who they are and they embrace them for who they are and they push them and they know like when to pull and when to push and when to go and when to kind of step back and they do that seeing students for their true selves.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Um, I just want to give that a beat because it's so powerful. And I want to ask you about this too, because another aspect of growing up in Guatemala for me was that from birth, there were always at least two ways of doing everything right in my face. Like I never
Yeah.
had this illusion that there's a right way to do
Yeah.
it because that wasn't my experience. And so I have sort of like an innate curiosity for differences and an innate respect for diversity.
Yeah.
And I imagine that's true for you,
Yeah.
having read about you and learned about you. And I also imagine you're having some of the soul level injuries around what's happening in our country right now. How are you faring with that? How do you hope educators are thinking about it?
Yeah. I hope that they are thinking about it. Well, I'm not. How am I faring? It depends on the minute. I hope that they are thinking about it the way we need to always be thinking about our work, which is like, who is right in front of us? And I think that's partially why I was really adamant about being in the classroom again, because I think I do my best work when I have students in front of me. And it's so clear, right? Like when you're in the classroom, like what the goal is. And sometimes like when we step out is when it starts to get a little fuzzy because
Wow.
there's so much noise. But when I'm in the classroom with my students, it is clear as day, clear as day what my mission is, what my goal is. And it is like tangible. And I'm not saying it's always attainable, but like it's clear, right? And my hope is that whether we're in the classroom full-time, part-time, or we're not in the classroom right now, that we connect to what it is like to be in the classroom and to have students in front of us. Because when the world feels really overwhelming, what I know to be true is we need to focus on the small. And when things feel really, really big, it seems to be really helpful to get as granular as possible. And if that means like we focus on one kid, then that's what we're doing, right? If it means we are focusing on one group or one class, then I think that's sort of how we make that bridge in particularly the hard times. And I also think this is really the profession of yes, and to your point earlier of like, yes, this is hard work and this is purposeful work. Like, yes, I am exhausted and I am weirdly energized, right? Like, yeah, like, yes, today was hard, and you better believe I'm going to be back tomorrow ready to give my whole heart and soul. Like, yes, this is a job and it's so much more, right? And a quote that has really helped me get through tough times is "Every day may not be good, but there's something good in every day" by Alice Morse Earl. But I like to change it just a little bit, that every day may not be good and there is something good in every day. And and it is so important to like position ourselves towards the good when everything around us is trying to get us to do the opposite, right? Like we are being pulled in so many directions, and there are forces at work that want us to position ourselves towards things that are falling apart. And while I am not saying ignore this, I am not saying this is toxic positivity, I am saying like, look for the good because you are doing good work. It is there, and it is not to be ignored.
That is such good advice in terms of students, but really anyone listening, whoever we have across from us at any given moment. It's in the abstract that we get swept away.
Yes.
And when we're doing that human to human, concrete, most people at a gut level can connect to their own values and their own desire to show up in a certain way that's protective of other people or of a way of life or what have you.
Yeah.
That's really good advice. And it, like, I feel it in my own body, just the truth of what you're saying, like the groundedness, like you're not pontificating. You're like, I know this.
Yeah. I know it to be true.
One of the things I loved learning about you was your relationship with the One Good Thing blog. Can you fill folks in on how that shifted life for you?
Yes. So again, when I made that switch from college teaching to high school teaching, I truly had like one foot out the door. I was applying for other jobs. I was applying to grad schools. And I was like, I am not a good high school teacher. but I had like 4 months of my contract left. I was like, I gotta figure out how to get through these next 4 months somehow. And so serendipitously, I stumbled upon this community blog, which, was a thing we did in the early 2000s. But yeah, it was a group of math teachers actually at the time who just were committed to writing good things that happened in their classroom. I think a lot of us were sort of feeling the same way of overwhelm, of just not, feeling like there was so much to do in a day and not enough hours to do it, or so many students to help and not enough time to get there, not enough energy and resources. And so it was really this practice, right, of focusing on one small thing and grounding yourself in that. And we live by that mantra that every day may not be good, but there's something good in every day. And I think it was January 12th of my first year at Union High School, I logged into that platform and wrote something good. I think it was like my seating chart work today. And the next day I wrote something good again. And the third day I did the same. And I just kept going and going and going. Long after blogs were a thing of the past, I was like that overly committed teacher who just like had started it. And I kept going because it was working for me, right?
Yeah.
My last day in the classroom before I was released from classroom duties as state teacher of the year was my 1400th post, like evenly, no rounding, which for a math teacher is really cool. And I, like 700 is typically used to signify like blessing. And I just say it's like my double blessing blog, because I got so much more out of it than I put into it, right? And it taught me how to it taught me how to be a noticer, is what it taught me, right? Because those good things were happening before I took the time to write them down, right? But I wasn't like making space for those good things to land. And so after a decade of writing something good every single day I had kids in front of me, it trained me to notice. And I think like when I first started writing, I was in a really reactive frame of mind, right? I would like log into the platform and think about my day in the past until I could think of something kind of sort of halfway good that happened, like my seating chart work today. And this like turning point happened pretty fast, I would say. Then I was in more of an active frame of mind where I would find myself saying like, oh my gosh, that's my good thing today. Like, Jose asked me to come to his soccer game, or like one good thing, like Maggie asked a question that was not, can I go to the bathroom?
Maggie.
I started like noticing those good things throughout my day, in the present. And then eventually I think I took another turning point where I started to like I started to want to proactively be the good for the future, right? And so I wanted to make sure there was a seat at the table for each kid. And so that's where practices like learning stories and I think that's like largely where I learned how to be really intentional and like forward facing, and thinking about my students' needs proactively.
Wow. And I gather from listening to your recordings that retroactively you came to understand that you were literally rewiring your brain.
Yeah. That's like what the brain science backs all this up, right? What I was doing was like initiating my RAS, which is our reticular activating system, or our brain's filtering system, right? So like the more I noticed the good, the part of my brain that filters the good expanded, which allowed me to see even more good. So yeah, I didn't know how hard this job was going to be. Yeah. And like, I didn't know how good it was going to be.
Wow.
Hi, Hi, I'm Katie Worden, producer of Oxygen for Educators. I want to spotlight our sponsor, TackieBox. TackieBox is an elementary school program that pairs innovative content with a tactile tool in daily practice to teach children to self-monitor their own words and actions and their responses to others. It's a proven tool that reduces behavior incidents by 66%. Through daily self reflection, students build self awareness, self regulation, and meaningful connections. TackieBox is a light lift for teachers with a big impact on student well being. Go to tackiebox.com to learn more and become a TackieBox district.
Okay, shifting gears a little bit. You, in one of your interviews, you mentioned a teacher that you talked with that had lost 25 students, I think, in 25 years. And her quote was, we are trauma-informed for students, but we are not trauma-informed for educators. And I was hoping you'd speak to that.
Yeah. So it was an incredible teacher that I met during my state tenure when I was working on Teachers of Oklahoma. And she could, not all of those students had she lost like when she was teaching them, right? But throughout her 25 years, there had been 25 of her students she had lost. And she could tell you, like, that's where Danny's at. And some of those students she did lose in the middle of the school year. And she talked about how she had to show up the next day for her students because they all also obviously remembered where Danny sat, right? And how she had to work really hard to create a place of safety for her students while she herself was feeling so traumatized, right? And while she herself was going through grief and mourning, and she was being confronted by this traumatic event every day as well, right? But as the adult in the room, had to sort of like bury that for the time she was in the room for the sake of her students. And it's like something we don't talk about enough, hardly at all, I would say, of when like our communities in particular like go through hard times. Our students are often looking to our teachers, in which, of course, yes, and like our teachers are also going through that tragedy, right? And by all means, we should be taking care of the kids. I'm obviously not saying we shouldn't be, but who is taking care of our teachers, right? And like our teachers hold story after story, year after year. Who's holding our teacher stories? And we talk like so much about teacher burnout. And sometimes I think, like, goodness, if we would just apply the same principles we know to be true for students to teachers, like, maybe there would be less of an issue of burnout, because these are not strategies that work because these are kids. They're strategies that work because we are human, right? Like, just like kids need to be seen and noticed, like our teachers need to be seen and noticed too.
Yes, it's all parallel process. Like you can't indefinitely extend to students something you're not also getting from the system.
Right.
Yeah, you might be able to fake it for a hot minute.
Correct. Yeah, and I think, maybe I can rewind, and maybe, something I think I really did change my mind on. I don't know, maybe it wasn't a 180, but like the principal is so important in the building, and the way that they take care of teachers really can trickle down, or the way they don't take care of teachers, right? I think that was something I really came to realize when I got to travel, was how important the principal is.
You could probably feel it the second you stepped
Correct.
into
Yeah,
every
you
building.
really can. You really can, and you can actually sort of feel like their strengths and like their leanings. Um, yeah.
Okay, I'm tracking on time because I could talk to you for 7 years and not get bored. But in one of your speeches, you talked about how educators hold our democracy. And I was so touched by that, and I was hoping you would tell us more.
Yeah, I actually got some flack for that one because
I'm sure you did.
but democracy can be defined as the practice of social equality, right? And I think that at our very core, that is what we are doing as educators. Like, we believe that every kid deserves a chance, more than a chance, like they deserve to live a productive, healthy, like joy-filled life. And that is at our core, like what we are working to do is like open these doors so that the future generation can experience social equality. I believe that the work teachers are doing now largely impacts the future of our communities. And I saw this great quote this morning, actually, that said, empathy is the oxygen of democracy, right? And yes, we are teaching our students how to think like mathematicians, write like authors, right? Like reason like scientists and historians, and dream like artists, and work like athletes. And like we are teaching them how to show up for each other. We are teaching them how to listen. We are teaching them that our stories all matter. And what I hope, I hope that my students look back and can say, like, I learned a lot of math from her, right? And I also hope that they can say, like, the way she loved changed the way I loved myself and I loved others, right? Like, because of how she showed up in class. And so I just think the work of a teacher cannot be, yeah, I don't know. It's just it propels our communities forward. And yeah, so that's what I mean by teachers hold our democracy.
Yeah. It's the bigness of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, it is also coming back to this idea that like everybody's in, right? Like no matter the color of your skin, zip code, gender, no matter your socioeconomic standing, religious affiliation, immigration status, like every kid is in. And that's like the beautiful part of America, right? Like that is the principle that we were founded on, of like, you have a spot here. And if that way of thinking doesn't start in our classrooms, then it's not going to continue on into our futures, right?
You have a spot here, and we're not doing you any favors. We're enriched by you.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like, I mean, asset mindset, right?
When we decided we were going to get to have this conversation, was there anything you were like, I want to make sure we talk about that we haven't covered yet?
You know, I think, I don't know. I just can't. I always have to just take the opportunity to tell teachers thank you, and that I have always been so proud to be a teacher. But like coming off a couple years of service and like getting to be in your classrooms and seeing the work from like both on the ground and kind of like a high view as well. Like I just have never been prouder to be a teacher. And I know that it's really hard work. And I know that the work is worth it. I know the work is working even when even if it feels different. I see you, teachers, and I see you, and thank you for seeing our students.
And you have some gravitas when you say that because of the traveling you did for 2 years. Like you're not just hoping it's true. You saw it.
Yeah, and those stories and those experiences, like, I mean, they change the fabric of who you are, right?
And I think I remember you saying that thank you were the first English words you learned as a child.
They sure were. Yep.
So how perfect to end on that same note. And thank you, genuinely thank you. You're an inspiration. Laura Lotta did talk you up quite a bit. So I was like, if there's not a halo coming on screen, I'm going to be disappointed. But I 100% was not. You delivered. And thank you to Laura for introducing us.
Indeed.
And thank you for just being you and doing this work in the world. I can't wait to see what's next.
Thank you, Michelle. Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, Chris, welcome back. It's our grand, I really feel this way, privilege to unpack the conversation and what we learned from Rebecka. So let's hear what stood out to you.
We learned so much, didn't we? The first thing I'll start with is I loved the her awareness and just her curiosity when she was comparing the AP exams from the students that she'd had for 1 year versus the students that she'd had for 2 years. Number one, just the self-awareness and curiosity to pause and say, I need to understand this, because I know it's not just that I'm the best, math teacher on the planet, but that she went in and did her research and understood that it was about relationship, and then really adjusted her approach knowing that. I just think that's a great reminder for everybody listening that even in AP math, relationship is what makes the biggest difference.
Woof. So, there's so much just in that little part you shared, the rigor of her looking at her own work. When my girls were growing up, my favorite thing to say to them all the time was, we are problem solvers. Because I just wanted to embed in them that, like, life is going to happen to us over and over and over again. But if you view yourself as an agent of problem solving, like Rebecka did, then, that's a really different journey than viewing yourself as just sort of like getting thrown around by your profession or by student outcomes or by life. I loved that part, the rigor. And I know for us, because of what this podcast is about, there's no surprise at all that the answer was connection and depth of relationships. But the way she operationalized the solution felt so accessible to me. Like every single person listening could institute that. I'm going to tell my story, and then I'm going to ask my students to sign up for 15-minute blocks over the course of however long makes sense, and just give them my full attention and the space to share whatever they want to share about their story. That's epic.
And also, she made the comment, her approach during that exercise is to listen to understand, not to be understood. And I love that too. Because that groundwork, that first week of school, changes the trajectory for the whole year.
Oh my gosh. I know how survival states work, and I know how flooded people feel. So I imagine there are people, amazing people listening right now. They're like, I do not have that time. That is not even possible given my whatever schedule or whatever. The caution flag I would throw up. And I think, cut that, Katie, that's terrible. And I think Rebecka would stand in this too, is we forget the power of front loading. we forget that if we put in a little extra time around students and colleagues and people feeling seen and known and understood, the smoothness of what comes next is so very different, that the time comes back to you a hundred times over, if you put in that work of like connecting. I see you, I know you. I mean, I feel like we're preaching to the choir if people are tuning into this podcast, but I hope they hear it as a yes, we're with you.
And here's just a practical thing that you can do that first week of school to try and then see what the year looks like.
Yeah. And if you didn't do it, but you want to do it, do it now. Like, who cares? Like, do it now and become that anthropologist that goes, what was different after I did that compared to before I did that? And if you can't see your way to 15 minutes, especially depending on the age of the kids you work with, 5 minutes. 5 minutes of undivided attention from an adult who's listening to understand is game changing for a kid. It actually breathes identity into a kid to have that kind of space to speak about who they think they are and where they think they came from. Like, that is so powerful.
Can I read a quote that Rebecca said that backs up exactly your point that I just loved? Particles at a subatomic level move when they are seen. So just like that, the mere act of bearing witness to them changes their trajectory. That's poetry. That's human. When people see us for who we are, that changes our trajectory. I just love that.
She's a poet. Like, the way she speaks, it's fascinating to me that she's so math heavy because she's also so poetic. She's so literary in how she puts words together.
When you talked about doing research for your interview, you mentioned you watched some of her speeches, and I have the intention of going back to do that because I just loved how her use of words is inspiring.
Yeah. Her use of words combined with her humble, compassionate presence, like, she just jumped off the screen. I couldn't get enough of it. And I also, like you and I are both heavy consumers of information. I felt changed by watching her, both by what she had to say and her presence. And what I love about that is so many of our listeners are walking into classrooms every day just doing their job. And the kids in that room are changed by their content, and they are changed by their presence, and they are changed by that appreciative gaze that shifts trajectories that Rebecca talked about. Wow.
You want to share one of yours?
Yeah, let me share one of mine. I was so touched by her origin story and how she felt untethered. And the thing that like really got me, that I've thought so much about, was when she said, what was untethering to me then is now what tethers me to my students. I just thought that was epic too.
And she was so proud to own the word immigrant when she started with her story. And then when she talked through that, you could just see that pride come to life in the best way possible. And just talking about the diversity of the school that she's in, she used the word culturally rich, I think, which just painted a great picture, lovely picture.
Such a lovely picture. And every single one of us has some version of what she shared. We have something that happened in our origin story that when transmuted can become a superpower in the work we do in the world, and as opposed to like a barrier or a weight. I I feel like she's like a living example of like, this was hard and it impacted me and I had to make sense of it. And now I see the arc of it and I see that I can show up for my students in a way that had I not had those experiences would not be accessible to me. That's so powerful.
That's actually a fun exercise for listeners to think through and see if they can identify some of those moments in their life if they haven't taken the time to do that at this point.
I love it. This is totally putting you on the spot, but do you have one that's coming up?
I would just say, it's kind of, I've shared this with you after I got back from MEA, and that week of kind of internal work. We did a lot of work with, they call it equine therapy, so with horses, and everything that just kept coming back for me that week was tying me back to the land and my family of origin and the freedom and independence that we were given. So it helps me understand like why I've built a life. They call it a portfolio life, where I work on several different projects at once. I like to live partly in the city, partly in the country, because I crave that independence. And if I feel like my independence is threatened, I start feeling shackled and I just want to break free and run. So I think that for me was that independence, because when I was a kid, like literally we were allowed to just go jump on horses and tear across the pasture and sleep under the stars. And, we just had a very, very free childhood and I loved it. Yeah. But I'm always looking for that feeling of freedom in life.
Whew. Yeah. Like your soul craves it. And if you don't get it and you're not paying attention to why you're not getting it, you act out.
Mm-hmm. And the rest of the world isn't constructed to create that kind of freedom. So you have to consciously create your own world if you have that inside of you. And that's at different points in life when I've kind of veered off path or gone wrong. That's why. And it just took me till I was 48 to figure that out.
You're ahead of the game for many people, so you're good. And I would imagine that having that awareness now, like now that it is in your awareness and not just driving you under the level of awareness, is that give you access to something with coworkers, with people who report to you, with, colleagues, whatever, that you didn't have, that you wouldn't have access to had that not been part of your origin story?
Yes, because I think it can help me. It can help other people understand me because I understand that about myself. Mm-hmm. And when you don't have that connection or that framework or understanding, if someone operates kind of in a different sweet spot that maybe needs more structure and more dependence, then I can be off-putting for that person. So it's like yes, I think it'll be easier to interact with me because you can understand it. Because I can understand it.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like you just had a little mini therapy session with me there. Are you going to charge me?
We'll continue this when I've got you lying down on a couch. Just kidding.
Okay, so another thing that I loved was her reference of education being the yes and profession. Oof. That was so good. And a few things that she said: it's hard work and it's purposeful. Today was hard, and you better believe I'm going to back tomorrow ready to give my whole heart and soul. Loved that. And even when she talked about what she wants to be remembered by, she said, yes, I want them to have learned math. That's a yes. That's a given. And she wants them to, the way she loved, to have changed the way the student loves themselves and others because of how she showed up in class. Like, that's yes and a really big and. Oof. But to hold both of those, I I just love that. It's a great way to think of education. Yes, and profession.
Oh my gosh. When she was sharing that and as you're sharing it today, like I just am flooded with images of people we've talked to and the way they live into that yes and. Yeah.
So
So
cool.
good. We are obsessed with her.
I know. It's kind of creepy.
It is what it is. We're just gonna have to embrace it. I put in all caps that the sentence, who is right in front of us. And I think it was when she was talking about like, regardless of the swirls and all the ways that education is getting kind of whipped around or caught in funding crisis or political winds or whatever, that the way she stays grounded is she is really clear when she's focused on who is right in front of her and what they might need. All the rest falls away and she knows exactly what to do. And I think that is grounded in her values and what she knows in her past. And she also said, when the world feels overwhelming, what I know to be true is that we need to focus on the small, on the granular. Which, go ahead.
I heard her say when things feel so chaotic, when she's in the classroom and she's in front of the kids with the kids, that grounds her.
Yes.
You heard that too?
Yes. That there's no question what the right thing to do is when someone's right in front of you and you're tending to their needs. And yes, I did. I also heard her say that about that being in that role is so grounding to her. Part of why she was like, I gotta get back. I gotta get back in the classroom.
I love that. And I actually love that she's doing the dual role now because she is such an amazing advocate for this profession and others that we just need her everywhere.
We need her everywhere. It's time to clone.
I actually really was like, God, I wish she would run for office. And then I went, no, she's got to stay in the classroom.
But she does have that presence of like, what do you want to do, lady? Because the world needs you in every way. So yeah, I think so.
She does. And I think that was really, it's been since the beginning of the podcast where I think we talked about the importance of the principal and having been in the classroom in the work in order to lead. And then I think we extrapolated that to it also would make sense if you're making policy to have some sort of understanding of the classroom. But that was just interesting to me how she that was her 180 or 90, I think she said. And just the importance of it wasn't so much the length of time since they'd left the classroom. It was just how deeply invested in the work, how deeply into what they were doing in the classroom. That's what makes the real difference when one goes into leadership. I just thought that was interesting.
Especially because that came to her after the 2 years of traveling. Like that's a nugget. I think I could go back on this, but yeah, I already know I'm going to go back on this, but I was going to say the last thing, but I can tell that's not true. I loved her relationship with that One Good Thing blog and her quote the quote she shared, every day may not be good. The quote is, but there is something good in every day. She changed it to, and there is something good in every day. And how that practice literally rewired her brain and how she talked about moving from it just being like a literal lifeline, that reactive, to the active, like, okay, I'm going to look for the good things, to the proactive, like I'm going to generate the good things. That was really powerful to me and very actionable.
It just occurred to me when you read it that she changed the quote to fit into the yes and.
Yeah.
I loved that. I loved that too. And just her comment about it taught me how to be a noticer in the present moment. That's a great goal.
Such a good goal. Right now, I'm working on an episode for the Radical Hope series that's all about managing our attention for mental health. And in it, there's this part about how, I hope I get the numbers right because they're not in front of me, but it's something like every second the brain has something like 11 billion bits of information that are available to access, to take in, but we actually only take in like 40 to 50. 40 to 50 bits out of 11 million possible bits. So her training her brain to be a noticer and then to notice the good is like, that changes your day. It changes your life. I mean, she said that it like kept her in the profession.
And did you feel a parallel to or work with Tacky Box when you heard her talk about that?
100%.
Yeah, me too.
100%. Like helping kids develop that capacity so that it's just rote. That's why the culture of the whole school shifts. That's why behavioral incidents go down. Like, yeah, very parallel.
I loved it.
And how nice to learn that as a kid when it's easier access than have to kind of unlearn and relearn as an adult.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so cool. What else you got?
I loved when you asked the question. Well, first, two things. One, I loved when you asked the question if she was just felt like a different person with, I think, different cells on the other side of doing that rotation as National Teacher of the Year. And I think she felt so seen by your question because she obviously feels so different. So I loved her reaction. I just thought that it said so much about the experience of being part of a group where everybody's heart beats the same, is what she said. I want to know. I just want to know so much more about that whole program.
Me too.
I think there should be a documentary where we get to follow them all and watch and see that experience.
Fabulous.
But I wanted to touch on the thing that you asked her to identify that she doubles down on now after having that experience. And that's the importance of having a high quality educator in changing the student's trajectory for good. That was really powerful to me. And it was inspiring to keep doing the work that we're doing, because our goal is to elevate all those voices and infuse oxygen so they can keep doing the great work that they're doing. But if, that's the one thing that really changes the trajectory, that's everything. We all have to focus on that. And then I loved the way she described traveling, and she said 9 times out of 10 when people hear what she's doing or that she's a teacher, they want to tell a story of someone who impacted them. And she said she wanted to bottle up all those stories, and I feel the same way.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that's what we're trying
with
to
the
do.
magazine and the podcast. She her quote around exactly what you're saying really, I don't know why it carries so much power, but I really think it does. She said, what I want American educators to know is that people all over this country are holding them so close. And I mean, I really hope people will just take a beat, and let that sink in. What I want American educators to know is that people all over this country are holding them so close, which is so different than one of the dominant narratives. And that's so hurtful that I hope people listening will let this sink in and heal some of that, and trust that this comes from someone who spent 2 years on the road, and this is her takeaway. So this is true. Yeah.
It's really powerful. I feel like that was so powerful that we should probably end on that. But I did have one more thing that jumped out at me. I loved her statement that educators hold our democracy. And when she first said it, I kind of perked up, but I didn't understand exactly what she was meaning. And so the more that she talked about it, it gave me a real aha moment. And the piece about empathy is the oxygen of democracy and the importance of teaching that, extending that. And she made the comment, if it doesn't start in our classrooms, then it's not going to continue into our futures, which is why we all have to rally around teachers in this profession right now and our kids and do everything we can to help with that.
So good. One more of her quotes that she ended on, maybe we can end on this as well. Have never been prouder to be a teacher. I know it's hard work. I know the work is working. There you have it.
There's her yes and.
Yeah.
I know it's hard work.
Yeah.
And I know the work is working.
The work is working. Oh,
Love it.
just another love letter to educators, as you
Yes.
said in a former podcast. She wrote another one in this episode, and huge thanks to her. I can't wait to keep watching what she does in the world, and I know it's just going to be extraordinary in all the ways. And thanks to you, and also thanks to Katie Warden, our producer. And I guess we'll catch everyone on the flip side.
And thanks to Laura Latta for referring her.
Yes, Laura. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah. And thank you.
She did us a solid.
Yeah, she did. That was great.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Oxygen for Educators. Please like, share, and follow, and if inclined, leave us a 5-star review so that we can keep making content for you. Let us hear from you if you know someone we should interview or a topic we should cover.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the guest and host and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any organization. The content is provided for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended as professional advice. Listeners are encouraged to use their own judgment and seek appropriate professional support when needed. Oxygen for Educators, its host and production partners are not responsible for any actions taken based on the information shared in this podcast.